Download the latest issue today, boxingnewsonline.net/apps. Hello and welcome to BNTV. The Olympics are still going on and we still can't get anywhere near it. My name's Matt Christie. I'm delighted to be joined by Daniel Herbert and we're going to be talking about the amateur boxing which we've been watching on the TV. Now it's been, for the British team certainly, it's been a success story whatever happens from now, but for you personally, who has been the British star? What's been the best British performance?
I would say definitely Anthony Ogogo at middleweight. He's done really well so far. His first bout is expected to win against the Dominican. His second bout to beat the world #1, reigning world champion Kitrov of Ukraine. That was an amazing win, and some people thought it was a bit controversial, but whatever. It was an outstanding performance from Anthony to beat him. Yeah,
it was. Did you think he deserved that decision?
It was very close. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a terrible decision. I thought the Ukrainian had done enough to win, but it wasn't a scandalous decision. Ogogo did some good work with his left hand. Was always in the fight. I mean, was never out of it. Just kept plugging away. And put up a much better performance than anyone really expected, and he did pretty well.
Yeah, he definitely did. He certainly deserved the decision in the quarterfinals, and you can't begrudge Anthony this success, can you? Really has, almost from before the games. It's as if it's been written in the stars for him.
Yeah, he's one of the less sung heroes of the British squad, but hasn't got as much publicity or as many medal hopes as the other boxers. But he's done really well. He's had bad luck with injuries and sort of family problems and personal problems. There's had many problems to overcome, but he's done really well to get this far.
Yeah. And difficult question, particularly being as though the games have not finished yet. But if you had to pick one fighter out of the squad that you thought will shine brightest as a professional, who would you pick?
Have to be Anthony Joshua. If only because he's a heavyweight and he can punch. He showed against the Chinese boxer in the quarterfinal, he floored in the right hand. He's got all the tools. He's still quite raw. He's only had about 40 fights his entire life, so and he's still in his early 20s. But he definitely has the potential. Given heavyweights mature late, he has so many years of success ahead of him. It has to be Joshua, I think.
Yeah. How far do you think? I'm not that familiar with Joshua, but how is he taking a punch? He looks like he can take a punch.
Well, he has so far. I think he did get stopped once in the Europeans last year, but he was even less experienced then than he is now. I think it was more a question of he got tired and started holding on, and maybe he let his guard down and got clipped once or twice. But he wasn't knocked out. He was never sparked in the way that some boxers have been. He was just stopped on tiredness, really, more than anything else.
I think the impressive thing with him is like you were saying, he hasn't had that many fights, and it's the speed of his improvement which has been impressive. And Lennox Lewis was tweeting the other day saying he's a future champion. I mean, would it surprise you if Joshua went all the way to be a world champion in the professional game?
Not at all, no. Well, it's always hard to extrapolate from the amateurs to pros, particularly now with such a huge gap between the two games. But in a way, it's probably less of a gap at heavyweight than at other weights like flyweight or light flyweight. Because heavyweights are often about power and who can deliver a punch and who can take a punch and maybe fitness. And we know that Anthony Joshua has those things. He can definitely punch. His fitness will improve the more training he does. So I think the future's bright for him.
Yeah. Let's hope so. Let's take the British team out of it and let's look at the game, the competition as a whole, boxing as a whole. Who has been the star for you?
Probably the best performer is Lomachenko of Ukraine at lightweight. But then he was the best boxer the last games at featherweight back in Beijing 4 years ago. That's not really a surprise, isn't it? It's not a revelation as such. In terms of revelations, it's hard to say. I've enjoyed boxers from places like Puerto Rico or Mexico, but they've won a couple of bouts and then have gone out to maybe some Eastern European and sort of fiddle them out of it by jabbing and grabbing, and which the referees allowed them to do far too much of in these games, unfortunately. But that's another story. But maybe the guy that Lomachenko beat from Puerto Rico in the quarterfinals, Felix Verdejo, he's probably quite young and inexperienced compared to Lomachenko, and he pushed him pretty close. I think he lost 14-9, which is about the closest anybody's got to beating Lomachenko in recent years. So he's definitely one to watch, and he had a good star for the pros, the Puerto Ricans always do.
Do you think Lomachenko's on target for the Val Barker Trophy?
In terms of talent, very probably yes, but the way things work, it's a very political decision. They tend not to give the award to the same person twice in a row. Once you've won it once, that's it, that's your lot, and you can win the gold medal twice or 3 times, but you won't get the Val Barker more than one, so they'll probably give it to somebody else.
Okay. We also we had something new in this Olympics. Olympic boxing was women's boxing, which according to John Dennon was fantastic atmosphere. I mean, we've watched a bit of it. But Katie Taylor was really, really impressive. I know Katie Taylor impressed you, Dan. I mean, she is a fantastic fighter, isn't she?
Oh, she's superb. Yeah, I'm going to have to say this, but she boxes like a man. But I mean that as a great compliment. Well, she boxes the way that men used to box in the good old days of amateur boxing, when talent and style and counted for more than point stealing and sheer physical fitness, and which is unfortunately the way that amateur boxing has gone in recent years. But you look at Katie Taylor compared to someone like Sugar Ray Leonard in 1976. There's not that much difference in terms of movement and poise and balance. So yeah, I'd say she boxes the way that men should box, or should be allowed to box, if only the rules of amateur boxing were correct.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a comparison, Sugar Ray Leonard and Katie Taylor. I'm sure she'll be happy with that, but she certainly deserves it. She has been fantastic so far. Get involved with all the best boxing banter at our forum, and that's forum.boxingnewsonline.net. Do you think for boxing fans or people involved in boxing in America, it's a worry, and it's a worry for boxing's future in the country? It's always been the capital of the world. Las Vegas has always been the fight capital of the world. New York before that. Is the fact they're not performing in these big tournaments now? Is that a concern looking forward?
I think it has to be a worry. Yeah. I mean, America still produces talent, but maybe they're going to start going pro much earlier at 18, 19, without the amateur grounding. They might still come through to title level, but they'll be less experienced and less seasoned. They might not just be as good. And the thing about the Americans, in America, in places like Las Vegas, you do get big stars who come from other countries, like Manny Pacquiao from the Philippines, or boxers from Britain. Amir Khan fights there. Now that's great to a point. The fact is, Americans always want to cheer on their own boxers, just as we in Britain want to cheer on British boxers. We can see that in the Olympics. There are lots of big Irish fans in the crowd, big British crowd there cheering on local boxers. That's the way of the world. Everybody wants to have their local heroes to cheer on. Also, it helps to create interest for TV companies and newspapers and websites and so on. And if America has to rely totally on foreign boxers to sell tickets and generate interest, it's going to lead a decline in the sport. It just can't work that way for very long. No,
definitely not. I agree. And finally, I mean, the game, I think we, particularly being here, that the games have been a success, but if there has been any criticism that's been aimed, particularly at the boxing, has been some of the decisions, has been some of the refereeing decisions as well. For you personally, I mean, you've been covering amateur boxing for a long time now. I mean, first of all, let me ask you, how does the decisions and what have you compare in this Olympics to Olympics gone by?
I've seen quite a few really bad decisions in these games. Some terrible judging, terrible scoring, terrible refereeing. We've seen a couple of decisions overturned, which, I mean, we can argue about, but it's a very dangerous road to go down. I mean, there are always some bad decisions in games, but these appear to be just as bad as just about anything since Roy Jones, really. Okay,
that's interesting. And which is there a decision that you've particularly objected to more than some of the others? The one that's stuck in your throat a bit more than?
Well, there's a real stinker last night. The Frenchman Alexis Vastine was rolled for the second games in a row back in Beijing. It was in the semi-final, so at least he won a bronze medal, though he probably should have won the gold in those games at light welter. Now he's up to welter. Last night he clearly outboxed the Ukrainian in the last round of their welterweight contest, quarter-final. But the judges somehow bizarrely gave it a draw. The fight ended on count back and went to the Ukrainian, which surprised nobody if you followed amateur boxing recently. And Vastine went berserk, the French went berserk, and quite rightly. I mean, it really was a bad decision. The worst thing about it was just how predictable it was. I mean, you just knew that. Well, I think Vastine was probably slightly ahead after 2 rounds, but it was level, so I thought, oh, well, here we go again. And of course, that's the way it worked out. Vastine clearly won the last round, but judging by the score, they just weren't going to give it to him. Just had to give it to the Ukrainian. It was not bad, but he definitely lost last night, and the French went crazy because he was their last boxer, had a chance for a medal. So now France had 5 boxers here, no medals at all. So that's a real disappointment for them. Also, it's terrible for boxing as well, because it was just such a bad decision. Everybody could see that Vastine deserved to win.
I mean, Teddy Atlas he's quite passionate in this week's column in the magazine, and he talks at length about this, and it's well worth a read. But he talks about that, and it's quite interesting that some of these decisions, they're just breaking fighters' hearts, and they've worked for so long to get to this level, and then it's almost as if it's out of their control. I'm sure anybody could take it if it was fair, But when it's seemingly not fair like that, it must be even harder to take.
Yeah, it's so galling. It's like you spend 4 years of a life training for this. This could be the one shot you get at Olympic glory. You get robbed, or even if you lose a debatable decision, you say, well, what do? You wait another 4 years? For example, Manny Pacquiao, many people thought, me included, beat Tim Bradley back in June, but Bradley got the decision. But in professional boxing, you can have a rematch quickly, and now they're talking about Pacquiao-Bradley, possibly again on November 10, only 5 months later. But in amateur boxing, what do? You can't have an Olympic final rematch 5 months later. Either you wait 4 years, or you just forget about it and go pro. Or maybe the guy who beat you retires or changes weight class and you never fight him again. So you don't get the chance to put things right, which you do in professional boxing.
Is it possible that we've overreacted to the controversy? Because I think there's been, there'll be something like 200 fights or something like that, maybe more so by the time the Olympics are finished. And because we've seen them so many of them in a short space of time, does that mean that when there's maybe 1 or 2 bad or odd decisions in a day, that it's kind of exaggerated slightly? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, Matt, but the problem is that one bad decision is just one too many. It was bad back in '88 with Roy Jones, and here we are again 24 years later. We're still talking about the same problem. And if it doesn't get solved and there's no real will to solve it, we could be here in 4 years' time in Rio talking about exactly the same thing, having the same conversation all over again. There has to be a will on the people who are capable of changing things to actually want to change it, and that doesn't seem to be the case. It is very disheartening.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so let's hopefully end on something a little bit more positive, because a lot of good has come from these games. Going to be some crucial matches over the weekend. Out the guys that are going for gold, I mean, there's still a long way to go yet. But who do you expect this time next week will be saying, that they got the gold medal out of the British ones?
I've been looking out for Luke Campbell as a Japanese in the semi-final, which is one he can and should win. Anthony Joshua, I certainly hope so. He has a talent. I mean, provided he progresses, he was better in the second fight than he was in the first, and provided he continues to progress, he could go all the way. Apart from that, I mean, Anthony Gogo's had such a brilliant tournament. You just never know. And you could say, well, the guys remaining in the middleweights are tough guys, but then he's beaten a tough guy already just to get to that stage. So who knows? Could go all the way. Maybe even Tom Stalker.
Yeah.
Who boxes again in the quarterfinals still tonight, but I mean, he's ranked number 1 in the world. He's won medals every tournament he's ever been to, so it could even be Tom. Okay, well, let's hope it's Tom, and let's hope it's more than just the one as well. And hopefully next week we'll be talking and looking back on some gold medals. But thanks for watching this time, and we'll see you all next week for another BNTV. For all the latest news from our man at ringside at the Olympics at London 2012, go to boxingnewsonline.net/Olympics.